Hi there, I'm Rebecca Willumson. I'm the publisher of Fierce Pharma, and I'm here today with Scott Rines, president of Swoop. Scott, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So to kick us off, tell me, what do you believe is the most prevalent myth about pharma marketing within the industry?
Yeah, I think the trend or the myth that's out there is that if you have HIPAA certification, that everything is safe and that you comply with all the sort of data regulations for targeting. And it really couldn't be further from the truth, right? So right now, there are 27 different laws that are running through the states. They're all based on sort of my health, my data. And because you have HIPAA certification, it doesn't mean that you are sort of complying with those laws on a state-to-state level. And a lot of those laws are suggesting you have to have zero health knowledge when you build these segments for targeting. And as a company, we have zero health knowledge when we build our segments. So we feel like we are compliant with all the state laws that are going out right now. And there's a lot to lose if people don't follow the rules here. And you know, the stewards of the industry, like an IQVIA or Symphony or Crossix, right? So there are companies out there right now that are doing the right things, and we're sort of part of that, right? But there's also a lot of startups that come along every year, right? And they are sort of more interested in getting the next round of funding. And there might be some challenges or some risks that they take to get that next round of funding. And that could burn down the bridge, right, for the industry, right? So there's a lot to think about. And then a lot of the manufacturers today are using multiple DSPs because it's not just who builds the segments, right? It's where do those segments go, right? And how are the DSPs handling those segments? Are they handling them in a way that is safe and compliant? So there's a lot to be thinking about as a manufacturer when you're targeting using data. And the output of all this is that the clearer you can get where your data is going, having it in one place or one location, it sort of allows you to have more clarity and safety.
Tell me, what are your predictions for the most significant changes or innovations that we're going to be talking about in the next 5 years?
So AI will be a big driver, and I'm sure you've heard that from a lot of people that you've spoken to this week, but it's really something that is going to be game changing, right? And if you start thinking about just the basic ad copy, right? It's like, what is the right ad copy to give a doctor? What is the right ad copy to give a patient? And when is the timing to give that to them? So I see in the future a time where each doctor is going to be uniquely different, right? They're going to be in a cohort, and AI allows you to literally bring that data to life. So in a sense, you can actually ask the large language model, what do you think of this copy, right? So you're really talking to the data, right? And so that allows you to have specific messaging for the doctor, but you also can do that sort of for the patient cohorts, right? The ability to start having a conversation with, let's say, Jane. Ask Jane, what do you think about this targeting? Does it resonate with you? And you know everything about Jane, right? So you're asking Jane specific questions around the targeting, and this will really fundamentally change the ad copy. And then if someone is closer or nearer to seeing a doctor, meaning I would say in market, right? If you think about in market for a car, right? They're in market to see a doctor within the next 30 to 60 days. That messaging can be completely different than someone that's not planning on seeing a doctor for 120 days. So AI will make that a reality, and it's starting to unfold right now.
You recently announced that Swoop is a standalone company after its spin out from Real Chemistry. Tell me, what does that mean for your future?
Well, it sort of makes us independent again, right? So we were part of Real Chemistry. They bought us 3.5 years ago. We're now a stand-up company alone under New Mountain Capital. It allows us to focus on AI. It allows us to focus on acquisitions that are specific to us. Real Chemistry is a global agency, so some of the acquisitions that we wanted to make don't really fit into their portfolio. Now we can focus 100% on Swoop, and we will be aggressively making acquisitions over the next 12 to 18 months.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just tell me, how does the Swoop HCP Pro Suite differentiate itself from traditional NPI targeting solutions that are in the market?
It's really a sort of a game changer, because when you start thinking about HCPs or our patients, right? You really have to start thinking about not them in sort of silos. You really have to start thinking, how do you connect them, right, along the patient journey? And to do that, you have to have a much different approach than saying, hey, I have an MPI list. I'm going to talk to all the cardiologists. all the cardiologists are completely different, right? So you have to find a way to be able to score them, just not on the real world health data. You have to look at their social determinants, their conferences they go to, where they speak, and you take all that data and you start linking it to them, right? So you start building cohorts from all that data that you're linking to them. And then once you do that, so you might have a cohort for an early adopter, right? They are adopting new medicine faster than other doctors, right? You might have a cohort that is a high writer, for instance, right? So you're taking a basic NPI list, you're adding all this different determinants of data to that, scoring it, and saying, this HCP is more valuable to your brand than this other HCP. But really where that sort of comes to life is now when you start thinking about targeting, the messaging is going to change, right? So if someone's an early adopter in that cohort, they might have a different messaging from a loyalist, right? And the messaging that the patients they're treating might also have different messages. So we fundamentally look at all the acquisitions I just talked about that we're going to be making. Does it help us along this sort of omni-channel strategy? Does it make us more privacy safe? Does it allow us to bring a more relevant messaging to the patient and doctor closer to the visit? So ultimately, when they have 15 minutes with their physician, it becomes way more meaningful, right? And that's the goal, right? Is how do we help change lives?
That is a perfect place to close. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.